Hey everybody, this is going to be essentially the first video that I'm going to be doing on 5000 series cards. Today we're going to be taking a look at the ROG Astral 5080, I think this is OC variant, and I'm going to also compare it to a much cheaper variant, that being the MSI Trio. Now, those of you that normally watch my channel understand that I do work with ASUS a lot, but this was actually purchased by myself with my own money. So is the MSI sitting here. So now, with that said, obviously the opinions I'm going to reflect are mine as a consumer. All right, so I think that's fair. Two, I do want to talk about pricing in this video. I'm going to do this on the pricing that this launched at, which was $1,500 US. I'm not going to talk about the current pricing, which includes a tariff increase. Today's February 7th, 2025, and there was an increase put on all GPUs manufactured out of China. For those of you who don't know, if you look under your GPU box, unless you have a Zotac or Inno3D, which moved their assembly process last year, you will see it says made in China. So even though the coolers themselves are, the chips themselves are manufactured at TSMC, the cooler, the fan, all that assembly, a lot of the PCB components, these are made in China. They are assembled in China. So when there's a tariff on China, the GPUs are assembled there, the prices will go up. So with that said, let's get started. All right, so with the tab open, let's get started. And of course, I always ruin the box on that part. Can't be helped. Okay, so right away the packaging should be familiar. It hasn't changed much from this style since I think 10,000 till 10 series, pretty much. Okay, so when we started with these kind of boxes. All right, so get the ROG. This is really heavy, guys. Right off, I can tell you it feels much heavier than the 4000 series does. And I did hold these cards at Computex, CES, so I do know that they are pretty hefty. Okay, so right away you get a nice ROG booklet rather than a small box. Well, a larger box than a booklet. And somehow I guess this pulls out. Let's see if we can get it out. Okay. So I'm probably opening this wrong, but seems like I ruined it already, so. Alright, so let's just get all this out here. Yeah, this is definitely not meant to be opened this way. Okay, so there's a box within a box. I kind of wish they just kind of had this kind of flap out. That would have worked out a lot better. But okay, so instruction booklet and stuff. Is this your warranty booklet? It's your warranty booklet, quick start guide. A thank you. No trading card? Alright, no trading card this time. So I guess not this time. Alright, anyway. You get a ruler. I think this is a ruler. No, it's not a function. Oh, it is a ruler on the other side. You get a ruler and you get some unit measurements, conversions, and what else? Yeah, centimeters and inches. That's about it. Okay, so then you get. This is a magnet. I think this is a magnet. Was this a magnet? I can't tell. It's just like kind of a coin. You get the 3 8-pin adapter. Strap. The same kind of GPU stand that we got. Hold on. This feels plastic. Yeah, so this is plastic now. The last generation was actually metal. So there's a change there. But you get a GPU stand. And you get a keycap with a shift. Which is pretty cool. It looks like it and actually spins. That's pretty cool, right? It's cute, you know. I wonder whenever they come out with a white one, if it's going to be white keycap and if you can get a ring. So obviously, I think this product is almost guaranteed to come out in white eventually. But black and silver is also nice. Oh, that's a big boy. Oh my goodness. Now that we have the card out, let's take a good look. I apologize, guys. I'm standing to the left of the camera, so the angle is going to be a little bit weird sometimes. But let's just quickly go over the card itself, and then we'll talk about its pricing, its componentry, its build quality, and kind of why it costs the way it does. All right. So first off, you get a completely solid one-piece metal top, right? And you have insert here that holds the fans that is 100% machined aluminum, right? This is not die-cast metal. This is not plastic. This is 100% metal. Now, why does that matter? That matters because it increases the rigidity of the card itself. You can see that it's all the way down to here and joined over here. So essentially, this was one complete block of aluminum that was machined down. Okay, and if you work with manufacturing, that's expensive. Machine time is expensive, guys. And then you have a pretty thick cooler here. You have three connectors here. 2 of these are fans. 1 of these might be RGB. And then we come to the back. We have some more detailing. You'll notice you have the Astral ROG inlaid here. You have a reverse fan. The 16 pin is monitored, right? Unlike any other AIB model, which I'll show you guys once I have the card in GPU Tweak 3. You also have the 2 PWM headers if you want to control your fans along with your GPU. I've personally never really done that because I do mostly water cooling, but I'll put this back on later. But if that's your thing, that's your thing. And a lot of this comes down to even small details, right? So for example, if I showed you this little rubber sleeve, it says fan 1 and fan 2. Okay, so the attention to detail is something that also takes time and costs money. Okay, so also we do have the dual BIOS switch, right? So looking at the card itself from the front, you'll see that you have the stainless steel bracket, which is actually, I think, quite a trend now. Most of them are stainless steel now, right? So I'll show you guys this trio in a second. And you can see that here we have some more machining work. And this cooler is actually the same cooler as the 5090 Astral. So on an 80, that's going to perform spectacular. All right. And you can see that the PCB is pretty long. So for those of you that are into water cooling, this card blocked will be a nice length. Not that I would advise anyone to block an Astral. You're better off getting the Tough, which PCB is just slightly shorter. All right. So, okay. So I think one more thing here. I just want to quickly compare this cooler to the last generations. You'll see that on this side, you can see one more heat pipe sticking out. And if I were to take, say, the 4090 Strix, all right, you'll see that there's only 7 in here. It might be hard to see on camera, but there's only 7. And you can see also they've upped the cooling potential quite a bit. Now, I understand this might be a little bit confusing because this is a Strix and this is an Astral, right? But the Strix is now, as I've mentioned in my CES video, only going up to the 4070 Ti, all right? So if you want a 4080, quote-unquote, old Strix, it would have to be an Astral. The reason being is they're kind of redefining their product stack, right? Where instead of having the Strix, which doesn't really line up, because on the motherboard side you have Strix and then you have ROG on top of that, right? So you have like Strix A's, Strix F, whatever, and then you have ROG Hero, ROG Extreme, and they're kind of bringing that over. So instead of Strix, you have now Astral. Okay, so let's just quickly bring in a lower price variant just to kind of get our eyes on one. I just want to stop it right here to quickly talk about Founders Edition pricing. So I think that's kind of important context that we can't skip. At the Founders pricing for the 5080 of $1,000, the AIBs do not really have margins. It's even worse for the 5090 at $2,000. Keep in mind that NVIDIA does not have to buy a build kit, which is a chip, the RAM, etc., from NVIDIA themselves, while the AIBs have to purchase these bombs from NVIDIA. So that's an additional cost from a competitor standpoint right off the bat that puts the AIBs at a disadvantage. On top of that, NVIDIA, for the most part, does not produce the Founders Edition for the entirety of the product life. For example, you do not really see the 4080 Super, 4080, 4090, 3090, 3080, etc. at Best Buy for the entire lifetime of the product, right? Because the Founders, generally speaking, is a limited production product. Not only is it a limited production product, it is also a region-specific product. So in many regions, you do not have a Founders Edition. At the same time, NVIDIA does not really have to pay any retailers to sell their products. For example, in the United States, it is only available through Best Buy. Best Buy, I can almost guarantee you, does not charge NVIDIA any money to sell their cards there, simply because if you were to go to Best Buy and try to get a Founders Edition, you would notice your only option is store pickup. Best Buy does not ship it to you. Why is that? Because the Founders Edition is shipped to the Best Buy in your geographical area, and then you have to go there and pick it up. This is Best Buy's way of driving traffic to a brick and mortar store. Meanwhile, partners like MSI, Aorus, ASUS, whoever it may be, still have to pay retailers like Newegg, Micro Center, Scan UK, whatever it may be. They're going to want their cut too. So if you look at it from a side-by-side comparison, NVIDIA has a strong advantage, and this is pretty much why EVGA quit, because the margin is just not good enough to make any profit. So for models that come like the Astral and so forth, this is actually where some of the profit margin is made. This also explains to why the pricing needs to be the way it is. Now, I understand that can be very frustrating if you're seeing an MSRP all the time of $999 and you cannot find any 5080s for $999, but now you understand why. All right, so this is a 5080 Trio. This card starts at $1,200. That's about $300 less than this Astral variant. And right away, I can tell you that this is all plastic, all right? It's 100% plastic. And in fact, it also even flexes. You hear the creaking, you see the card flexing, right? Not the PCB, but the card itself can flex. You're not going to get any of that flex on this card. Does that really matter? Yes, because in some cases, if you have a nice computer case, it actually does help with sag when your card is more strict, because it helps hold the cooler up. You may not believe me, but trust me, I've put this card now in a couple cases and it does sag a lot less. But then, you know, I'm talking minuscule, not like if you had sagging problems, it's going to fix it for you. It's not going to. But at the same time, you can just see the build quality alone. Okay, so you can see the cooling potential is obviously going to be very different. That's just common sense, right? You have less heat pipes, smaller cooler, not as high cooling performance, right? So, and you also notice the PCB is much shorter. Now, why is that? So, obviously, I'm guessing it's cheaper to have a smaller PCB, right? Just in the copper alone. But at the same time, a smaller PCB, you can actually see a lot of it is empty up here. I don't know if you guys can see that. When I take you guys to see the PCB shots of the Supreme and the Vanguard, because I don't have one for the Trio, you can hear all that clicking, right? You'll see that on the ASUS cards, even the tough, all the components are spread out more, right? And we'll get into the benefits of that in a second here. But let's just quickly bring out the scale here, so I can just show you guys a little bit in number form how impressive this is. So I know this is heavy. It feels really freaking heavy. All right, so the MSI comes in at 1,361 grams. I'm sorry we can't read it from the camera. Let me zero out. There we go. Zeroed out. Okay. So that's 3 grams. That's interesting. Okay. So 2903. Some reason it had registering 3 grams. So let's just say 2,900. So you can see there's a lot of additional heft here, right? And pretty much all of that is materials and cooler and componentry. So with that said, let's get the card plugged into the system. I'll show you guys the voltage monitoring in a GPU tweak, and then I'll show you guys some of the results from benchmarks that I ran comparing this card to the Trio, to the 4090 Strix and the 4080 Strix, and we'll go into a little bit of a conclusion. Alright guys, so here we are in the system with it booted up. You can see here I have GPU Tweak 3 running. You will need this software if you want to see the 12 volt high power monitoring. You can see that's actually monitoring across the 6 pins that do draw current. Like I said, this has been a controversial connector, but I don't think the connector itself is an issue. It's more of maybe how the current is being drawn across the connector. But that's a whole nother thing. For those of you that are expecting this connector to change, I can tell you it will not change anytime soon. Reason being is we in the gaming market, we're small potatoes, right? I mean, this connector, if I were to say, look at a H100, I mean, I have these, at work, and they run 12-volt high power. And you know, it's I mean, they draw up to 700 watts. It's not like they draw, you know, low either. But yeah, so a lot of this, you can tell it's kind of looking like it's drawing too much from one current, one wire or another, right? It's always kind of melting from one side. But yeah, with that said, moving on to here, this gives you a warning. It's a red light if one of the pins is not seated in properly, or you know, something's, if you, I guess if it's overdrawing on one pin, then it might show it as well. I tried to ask ASUS to see if they're willing to do a demonstration of, you know, purposely faulting it. I think that's a good demonstration, right? Especially if you're buying this product given its cost. You know, this is one of the primary benefits aside from the other things I mentioned earlier. It'd be nice to see it in action. Okay. And also additionally, because this is the Astral, you have the, you know, temperature sensors on the VRMs as well as, and the memory, not just, you know, on the core itself. Moving forward, I just want to bring up Tech Power Up. Do I have it open here? Yeah, okay. I have a couple open. So Tech Power Up, if you guys don't know, this review site's been around for a long time. This guy Wizard has been doing GP reviews for the longest time. I would like to say that if you're intending on purchasing a CPU or GPU, anything of significant investment to you, don't just rely on YouTube reviews. Reason being is, you know, YouTube tends to deliver a lot of things with sensationalism added onto it. For example, if you're coming to this site to read a review, you're coming to this site because you find this person knowledgeable, you find the reviews trustworthy, or you find that they do a good breakdown of what you're looking for. But you're not coming here because a thumbnail made you click on it, right? And that is one of the reasons I don't really like YouTube reviews from most of the larger channels. Okay, because if you were to just Google this, all right, just go to videos. Okay, stupid, big, stupid. I mean, really, right? So you get some other things, you know, you get some normal ones, and then you get some really cookie ones that I've seen, but extremely expensive, infinitely scarce, and this is the amp. You know, this kind of gets you to click, right? But like I was saying earlier, this car's not for everyone. You don't have to buy it, okay? You don't have to. These are the things, you know, like the cooler build quality, you don't have to appreciate it, okay? You can buy a lower card, that's fine. But I'm going to show you guys some of the PCB differences. Tech Power Up does do teardown, so it saves me a lot of time. But you can see here's the cooler itself, right? Separated. You'll see that there's also pads on the back of the card, even though there's no memory chips or anything on the back of the card. So a lot of, even water blocks sometimes don't come with pads for the back if there's no chips here, but you can see that they have pads for the back as well. Okay. And if we look at the PCB, you can see that, you know, it's super clean. Everything's well designed, high quality components. There's no bunching anywhere or anything like that. Something like this also makes repairs easy, right? Because it's nicely evenly laid out. So let's just take a look at some of the competition. Okay. So if we come to, okay, so let's just take a look at these. Okay. Also, this is what? This is, okay. This, yeah, it is a 20 phase. Even says here. So it's a 20 phase. All right. Okay. We come here. Let's take a look at the Zotac. This is 14 phase. All right. These are, I believe these are slightly less, high grade componentry. Okay. And then you have, let's take a look at the cooler itself. All right. So here, the cooler looks pretty beefy. Zotac's actually doing a pretty good job on this one. I don't like, what is that? I don't like that. I mean, I don't like the power of this dual BIOS switch. It's kind of weird, right? Would you rather not have it be a positional thing, right? And this kind of tan sticking out. Like some of these small details, like you will never see on a ROG product. And that's kind of what it is. So they do have, okay, so you do get pads on these. This is nice to see. They're a bit thick, so telling me that this could have been lowered a little bit, right? So, but you also get nice pads here. Okay, so let's look at the palette. We don't really get that in North America, but let's just take a look. See, this is all plastic, right? See, both of these cards are plastic. the Zotac as well. It's not bad at 2200. But you can see here we get pads. And let's take a look at the PCB. Then 0 pads on the back. Alright. And then look at the PCB. Okay, these are not exactly high quality. But, you know, an RGB. See, like some of this design stuff, like it's not thought out well. Like they have RGB strips sticking out over there. So this is like I was back to saying, like the amount of attention and time you have to pay people to sit there and design these things also comes in the cost. What is this? This is the Vanguard. So the Vanguard's a 14 phase. Alright, so that means the Supreme is probably a 16. And the Trio is probably still 14. Let's go back. So we come look at the pictures near now. Okay, so you can see that on the Vanguard, this is plastic. I think that might be a plastic as well. Okay, so still 3-piece, so you don't have that same rigidity, and it's pretty light. 1954. Let's see what else here, and 1 pad on the back. All right, these are not pads; these are just soft foam. 1 pad on the back, and here, you know, is this at least? I want to know if this is a vapor chamber, because it doesn't actually say here. Oh, it is a vapor chamber. Okay, so it is the 80 pipes vapor chamber. And here's look at the Supreme. Okay, so the Supreme's gonna be the highest line on the undersized side. You can see that this is gonna be a 16 phase. Yep, and yeah, but you see all this bunching here. You see that? This is a small PCB too. Like, you know, I'm not electronics expert, but I feel like, you know, having all these caps here probably not a good thing with all this kind of randomness. May or may not matter. But let's take a look. Again, it's a 3-piece design with still plastic. You see what I'm saying, guys? This is, you know, this is a lot cheaper to produce than that Astral, and that's kind of where the cost comes in, right? I think that's metal, right? And then we come here. 1 pad on the back. Okay, so you get what you pay for. I think, is it the same as the Vanguard? 11. Okay, so it's the 11. It's 8 on the Vanguard. Okay, so let's take a look at Gigabyte. If we can find a Gigabyte. Is there a Gigabyte over here? I clicked on it earlier, didn't it? Okay, there we go. So this is the gaming OC. So it's not the lowest. The WindForce is the lowest. So the gaming OC comes at 1200. Okay. So, okay, we're going to skip all this. So let's look at the pictures and teardown. Okay, so it's fairly light too, 1823. All plastic and shiny plastic. Look at that. What is that? One thing I didn't mention earlier is that when I had the Astral in my hand, you'll notice I left no fingerprints. There's actually, like, they've actually put a coating on it so that's not so fingerprinty. Those kind of things matter. See, it's all plastic. Like I said, you may not... Is that paste? It's just all paste. Wow. No pads, just paste. No pads, period. Oh, whatever that is. But you see, and this is super thin too, right? This is where the cost comes in. And, oh my goodness. But oh wow, that is all over the place. Okay, but yeah, you guys get my drift. So here's the card in the system. This is a 7800X3D with a decent memory kit of 32 gigabytes. Not the lowest latency, but since I'm testing everything in 4K, it really shouldn't be an issue. Alright, so for some of the quick testing I've done, I'm only going to run this one benchmark. I don't really do benchmarks for games, so if you want to watch that comparison, I would suggest maybe your favorite YouTube channel. Although I highly suggest reading Tech Power Up for reviews. I feel that, you know, they give better measurements in terms of relative performance across multiple generations of cards rather than just the most recent. All right. So quickly into the settings that I'm using. Well, since these are all NVIDIA cards, you know, I'm gonna turn on DLSS with firming generation because that is one of the high points or selling points of buying an NVIDIA card, right? Since I'm testing the 4080 Strix, 4090 Strix, 5080 Trio that I threw in there, and the 5080 Astral, all of them are running with cinematic, ray tracing level 1 very high. So here is the chart for all the cards. I didn't really want to post all of the runs, even though I did record them. I felt that it wasn't as important as just showing the Astral itself. I will say that from a fan noise perspective, I never heard their card on auto with the case door closed. And I would say up to 60%, 70%, you're probably not going to hear it even without, because I did this without sound. Even without sound, you're not going to hear it. And if you have headphones on, unless it's blasting at 100, you're never going to hear it. And realistically speaking, the fan never went past 60% on auto, or like 50%. And it also didn't really go above 60 degrees either. So it's a very impressive cooler. In terms of overclocking, I hit 3165. That was kind of the max I could go, I think, on ambient. It wasn't temperature restricted, so even if I had said drop the temperature down to 45 degrees, which I could do with that cooler, sitting at 100, I could keep a load of like 48. It didn't improve the clock speeds at all. So, I mean, I also maxed out the slider. So in GPU Tweak 3, I had maxed out all the sliders, and it was just rock stable. I did run around in WuKong. It was fine. I ran some other stuff. It was fine too. It's just... So I know it's a stable clock. Obviously, if you have a 4080, it's kind of hard to make the argument to an upgrade right now, given the pricing. If you have a 4090, this is really, really close, but it's still a downgrade, right? Because while people like to say, "Oh, look at the overclocking headroom on the 5080," I mean, at the same time, look at the overclocking headroom on a 4090, right? It's not as high, but it's still there. Obviously, NVIDIA could have made a smaller chip that runs much higher clocks and a smaller memory bandwidth to give us something like 24 gigabytes. That would have probably performed on par with the 5090 or close to it for a lot less. But then that wouldn't serve the AI market, right? And they're kind of catering towards the AI market because memory bandwidth and memory amount there, that's really important. So that's kind of where we are. Overall, like I said, if you like the card for the build quality, if you just want the best GPU you can buy, then this is it for 80 class and probably for 90 class, unless we see like a Hall of Fame gaming. But those are going to be even more expensive, right? Because those are hand cherry binned. Right? These are not bin chips, by the way, guys. So it is what it is. Like I said, the Trio performs exactly on par, like I would expect. But obviously, I heard the fan. It was more noisy. And whether you care for it or not, aesthetics, build quality, some of those things are really important to some people. And so is branding. So with that said, thanks for watching. Stay safe. Take care.